Gunners supporters, blows his whistle. George Moncur steps up and scores! Bottom corner of the net, the goalkeeper was very close, and it's George. He lets in a low cross, and a Smyth turned in, and Leyton Orient are back on level terms. He'll come to James, he shoots! Oh, and a goal from Tom James! That was a volley, and that was... It's a low cross, it's an inviting cross, and it's been turned in by Theo Archibald, and he celebrates in front of the travelling faithful.
Good afternoon and welcome to Orient Live. The O's are back in E10 this weekend and they're looking to continue the unbeaten start to the season, and it's Tranmere Rovers that stand in their way as the O's hope to keep on that top spot. And we're going to be bringing you all the action here on Orient Live, and I'm delighted to be joined by former Orient defender Glenn Wilkie and Orient Live pundit Brendan Pitcher. Here it is, boys. It feels really confident coming into a home game. But hope these guys have a there you go. Have a good game, lads. If you feel really confident coming into a home game, especially with the form we're in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you looked on paper before the season started, you look at Tranmere at home and you think, oh, tough fixture. But with the way they've started and the way we've started, I think it's now the onus is on us. You're not really worried about the opposition at this point, given the way we're playing at home, especially at the minute. It's kind of the case where if we play how we know we can play and we can reach those levels, then we can be confident against any team at the minute.
4 goals last Saturday against a poor Hartlepool side, but do you expect more goals today again?
Yeah, I do. I just think we've got such great attacking flair and a massive threat in all areas, sort of with the attacking midfielders and the forwards. I just think we'll just create so many chances. It's just about putting them away, like Richie's alluded to in previous interviews. I've spoke to a few young Orient supporters before we've come on here, and I'm asking them to score, and they've gone from a 10-0 to a 5-1 to a 4 goals, so they're feeling really, really confident as well. Let's hope that some of them's right.
10 goals would be nice, but let's take a look at the Orient starting lineup. There has been one change, and especially to that attacking lineup that we were just talking about. But starting in goal is, of course, number 22, Lawrence Vigouroux. In at right back, number 2, Tom James. Number 5 at centre back, Dan Happy. Number 7, Paul Smyth. And that one change is number 10, Ruel Soteriou, coming in for the Theo Archibald, who has a slight knock. Midfield 3 of number 14, George Moncur. 15, Idris El Mizouni. And the captain, number 18, Darren Pratley. Partnering Dan Happy at the back, as always, is number 19, Omar Beckles. Leading the line, number 23, Charlie Kelman. And in at left back, number 32, Rob Hunt. And on the bench for the O's, Sam Sargent, Adam Thompson, Craig Clay, Jordan Brown, the first or one of the deadline day signing, Jaden Wareham, Aaron Dryan back on the bench in the league, which is such a good sight to see, and the second deadline day signing as well, Stephen Duke-McKenna. So the one change, Theo's going to be a miss. I think that's the obvious place to start.
Yeah, no, he will be. He's just sort of getting in the groove. He's last couple of games he's very, very lethal. But saying that, Ruel's come in. Well, he came in last week, he scored a goal. His confidence will be high. He's got given his chance in the starting lineup today. And we saw back in the last year, when he came in and started a few games, his confidence levels was up, and he went on that amazing scoring spree where he scored, was it 8 in so many games. So I think he'll be firing on all cylinders today. And I think what a great replacement to have for Theo. He's going to be a big loss, but injuries happen.
What would you say Ruel brings you that maybe Theo doesn't, and vice versa? What do you think you might be missing?
I think the thing with Ruel is that he's almost like a natural goal scorer that plays out on the wing, so it's a little bit odd in terms of normally you'd associate like a number 9 with that kind of player, but the thing with Ruel, he's always going to try and drive at players, he's always going to try and look to get a shot off, whereas Theo's a little bit more maybe tactful, maybe he can kind of, he looks for crosses more, but with the way we're playing and the setup we've got, maybe Ruel suits that more, because we don't really have that kind of big physical striker in the box. We have Charlie Kelman, who is good in around the box, is a good finisher at getting in behind, but we don't really have someone that you're going to kind of aim for crosses onto their head. So I think with Ruel, like Glenn said, shows the strength and depth in the squad, in that we can lose a player like Theo Archibald, which is going to be a big miss. We can replace him with Ruel Soteriou, who going into the back end of last season was arguably our best player.
Tell me more about Charlie Kelman then as well, Brendan. He's leading the line. You said he's maybe not this big striker, but he's been getting on the score sheet, and you feel as though he's only just getting started.
Yeah, he's been excellent. I think if you said at the start of the season that Aaron Drinan was going to miss the first 5-6 games, you would have been kind of concerned, because he is definitely Richie Wellens' his main striker from that point in the season. We know he's seen him singled him out before and give him a new contract, so it's clear the faith that he has in Aaron Drinan. But for Charlie Kelman to come in and do the job he has, it's a real testament to kind of the recruitment team and Charlie Kelman himself. He kind of has adapted. I think his first few games he was a little bit quieter, and he's really grown into that role where he presses well, he runs the channels, and the most important thing about him is that he's just an unbelievable finisher. Whenever he goes through on goal, you just look like he's going to score.
And he seems like he's going to keep Aaron Drinan on the bench as well. It's good to see Drinan back on the bench, but with the way Kelman's firing at the moment, you don't expect Drinan to come back in and take his spot.
And that goes for every single player in the team. You've got a strong bench. You've got somebody wanting to get your shirt off your back. You know, when you're winning. Excuse me. It's very difficult to do that when you're playing well all across the pitch. Kelman has done well. Like what's your name? Brendan. Sorry, Brendan. Like Brendan said, but he had no pre-season, did he? So he came in late. And you can see he's getting used to the team, he's getting used to the tactics and the way we want to play. And as he's getting fitter week after week, you can see he looks sharper. And like he said, in front of goal, he's lethal. He's really, really good finisher. But what a great thing to have. You've got players on the bench who are like our main striker from last year. So if it's not going right, what great sort of substitutions you've got to come on and try and change the game.
And it is good to see him back from his injury. As much praise we're giving to Charlie Kelman. We saw what Drinan offered to Richie Wellens' side last season. He's a welcome addition. Almost feels like a new signing again.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what Richie Wellens really likes from his front players is to press from the front and work hard. And if you're going to give, say, what is Aaron Drinan's biggest strength, I think it is his work rate, and he's just so good, so on the front foot, harries defenders. And then what kind of we saw, especially at the early parts of the season, is that he gets into really good positions, and if he can just add that clinical edge, then he can easily be a 20-25 goal season striker at this level.
And then attacking side with Paul Smyth in it is going to be electric. We've got some clips of him here. He really is a handful for defenders.
The guy's unbelievable. I know we said it last season, we've said it this year. For me, he's the best player in this division by far when he's fit. The clips on screen, you look at him, the ball goes into him, his first touch, no matter how he receives the ball with his back to play or one over his shoulder, his first touch is always such a threat. And Richie has said over the past few weeks in interviews that when he squares up a defender, and what he means by that is when he gets a defender on his heels, he's got such rapid pace. It's such a low centre of gravity. He can spin someone, he can run at them, he can get past them. He's such a threat. Absolute major threat. We've seen the goals he scored last year. He can score from inside the box, outside the box. It just, as a defender, you don't want to play against somebody like that. You'd rather play against somebody like Harry Smyth, who's, you know what's going to happen, you know what his movement's going to be, you know he's going to be a threat in the air. But with Paul Smyth, he's so unpredictable to play against, which is such a great thing for Leyton Orient, because he's the best player in the league without a doubt when he's on song and when he's fit.
And you said about the kind of goals he scores, you've seen a couple of them there, but last season he was scoring Puskas contenders. This season he's adding the tap-ins to his game now.
Yeah, I think that's promising. I think that kind of shows the way Richie Wellens has developed this team. I think at times, especially at the start of Richie Wellens' reign, it was kind of, there wasn't the patterns of play there wasn't time to work on it, so it was more a case of individual brilliance was needed. He needed to score a worldie every other week to get on the score sheet, but now we're seeing these kind of moves where he's just getting on the end of it. It's a nice passing move and he's applying the finish, and that's such a positive for a winger like that, like we said about Raul Sotiriou, in terms of his main job, Paul Smyth, is going to be kind of taking on defenders, getting crosses in, dribbling, all of that stuff, but he's added that kind of those tap-ins to his game, and that makes us such an all-round threat in that front 3 or 4 positions.
And there were some changes to our attacking options on deadline day. Harry Smyth leaving on that season-long loan to Exeter, and Jayden Wareham coming in on loan from Chelsea. I would ask you what you expect from him, but I don't think many people will really know.
Well, I've done a bit of research, as you do, because he's actually from about 10 minutes from where I live, over in, I think he's in Ascot. So I was having a chat with a couple of people who knew him growing up, and a couple of things that Richie said and Martin Ling said about him. They want energy in the side across the pitch. We need energy. You spoke about the pressing from the front, where top, if not in the top 2 in the league of pressing from the front and closing teams down, which causes them problems and we get more chances. He's an ideal player to fit into that sort of system if required on the pitch today. He's young, he's got energy. From what I gather, he scores goals as well, which is an added bonus. So I'm really looking forward to seeing him on the pitch today in an Orient shirt.
And another addition in the midfield, Stephen Duke-McKenna joining. Bit of a mouthful, but he's little, I think. I'm not sure if you could pick that up. He's a small player, but what kind of player is he?
I think the biggest plus about him, it has been mentioned before by Richie in the interviews, is that he can play in a number of positions, and when you kind of want that extra player to your squad, which is kind of what we needed on deadline day, was the case of just kind of filling gaps in the side, and he can play on the wing, in central midfield, at right back, and I know he's a player that both Martin Ling and Richie have had their eye on for some time. I think Richie spoke about the fact that they went and watched him play for Dagenham and Redbridge, and he was part of a really good Torquay team that has kind of been picked apart, and Richie said in his words that he was the best player in that team, so that shows kind of the level of ability he has. He's 22 years old, he's come from QPR fans by all accounts looking on social media were kind of excited to see him go out and move up a level, and they think he's a promising player, so I'm excited to see what he can do if he gets on the pitch this afternoon.
Well, we caught up with the deadline day signing Stephen Duke-McKenna, and we heard his thoughts after he joined the O's.
Stephen, deadline day at Rival yesterday and your first day at training today, so how was it?
It was good, there was a lot of good patterns of play and stuff. The lads are all got very good talents in there, and I didn't realise how young the squad was as well, so we've all got very good competitiveness, so it's good.
For yourself as well, you're talking a minute, kind of been around the first team at QPR for the last couple of years, so in terms of this season, how's that been?
To be fair, being around, obviously them lads, a lot of them have played at different levels, higher levels, so it was good being around them. They've given me experience, given me advice, and the gaffers came in, he's been brilliant with us, to be fair, being very honest as well. So it was good that he let me go and get experience that I need to obviously step up to that next level.
For yourself, obviously a big part of stepping up to that next level was your first loan at Torquay last year. How was that?
It took me by surprise because I didn't know exactly, because I haven't played for 3 points and I was always competitive, but that just took me to a whole new level of competitiveness and passion, and it was good because we were winning games and getting playoffs near enough, and the pressures around it and all the fans, it was good.
Saw some of your goals from your time at Torquay, quite I guess quick feet around the box and trying to get those shot away. Is that where you think you're most dangerous?
Yeah, I do. I think I'm quite clinical, but it's just obviously hopefully getting in them areas and getting them relationships with the players here, because they've got players you can combine, and I've done it today with them in training, so that's a good sign. So yeah.
I know Charlie Kelman had been on at our director of football, Martin Ling, to get you in for a couple of weeks. So when you're talking to Charlie about the place, what did he have to say?
He said he enjoyed it. They've got a good group, as I said before, and you need to get down here because you'd love it as well.
On to the weekend, a game against Tranmere Rovers. For those obviously top of the table. So how do you think we approach this game?
I think we should directly go right at them, because obviously we've got a load of them scoring goals, but everyone's in form, so the more you get near the box, the better, because these are popping off right now, obviously.
And for yourself as well, coming into that environment, I guess it's different from when you went at Torquay and they weren't doing as well. So coming into this environment, how do you think it's different?
I think it's different in the terms of there's even probably more pressure, because you've got to maintain that level of obviously class what these have showed. So that's probably the difference.
And then just finally, any aims for yourself whilst you're here?
I just want to do well for the team, score as many goals, and excite the fans. Hopefully I can show them what I've got.
Brilliant, we'll look forward to it.
Well, hopefully he can settle in as well as the other QPR loanee, but what do you expect from him? Because it's going to be a hard task for him to break into that midfield three at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's kind of, where is he going to fit it in the minute? I'm not sure whether he plays the Darren Pratley role, whether he comes in as a makeshift number 10 where George Monker's playing. But like we said, that's a good thing that he's got a lot of options there, Richie Wellens, and kind of where's he going to play and how he can fit him in.
And that midfield three is on form at the moment, I think it's fair to say. You don't expect him either to come in and just walk into one of them spots the way Idris, George and Darren are all performing.
No, and they're only going to get better. They're going to get better the more they play together, the more minutes they get on the pitch together. They're going to understand each other's game more and more, when to go, when to hold. The skill in there, the experience in there with Pratley, you've got a youthfulness with El Mazouni in there. I just think it's such a great three in there. It will be difficult to displace, but like we said a couple of weeks ago about Pratley, he's not a spring chicken. He's going to need to be rested once these Tuesday games come in a bit more. There's going to be times where he can only play 60 minutes, so that's an ideal opportunity for the guys on the bench to come in and try and claim a spot. And
Jordan Brown as well on the bench. He played on Tuesday night. I think probably the standout player in not a great game of football, I think it's fair to say, but Jordan Brown was the one stand out there. There'll be a big competition for those midfield spots as well.
Yeah, that's the thing. Looking at the bench today, I think it's the strongest bench we've had in some time, and Jordan Brown is part of that. I think, like you said, he was very good against Oxford for me in terms of, I think his passing was there, and that's something that I haven't seen from Orient midfielders enough in recent times. I think he played one really good ball that went over the top and probably should have led to a goal. So yeah, Jordan Brown, I think he's one of those players where he needs to get up and running. He still hasn't had a real run in the side, but if he can keep getting minutes and keep playing kind of like he did on Tuesday night, it's only going to add for competition for places.
And that consistency obviously spreads to the defence as well. It's an unchanged back five. Happy and Beckles looking really solid, but a couple of sloppy goals conceded against Hartlepool. That penalty we gave away. Do you think maybe Richie will be looking for them to be a little bit sharper, especially after Tuesday?
100%. We have got the best goal difference in the league. We've got the best defensive record, but it has been a bit leaky over the last couple of weeks. Conceding chances and giving away sloppy goals. They'll be working on that, and we know the goalkeeper's very vocal about and upset about conceding goals in last minute and stuff like that. But the defenders will be. They pride themselves on keeping clean sheets. It's not only a goalkeeper, and they'll be frustrated. And they would have worked this week on when to sort of go, when to hold, when to sort of stick or twist, when they've got the ball and when they don't. But concentration is key as a defender, and they need to concentrate for the full 90-95 minutes these days.
We've just seen the players sprinting towards the Tommy Johnson South Stand and big cheers all round. And Richie's very vocal about that connection. It does feel like that's really building, especially between the players and the fans.
Yeah, definitely. He's made a big point of kind of not calling out the fans, but demanding more from the fans, because that's what he wants. He wants to kind of get every area of this club bouncing and to its maximum ability, and that's what we're seeing now. I think Brisbane Road's becoming a place where you come in and you feel good atmosphere around the place, and you can tell when we need a goal, the atmosphere rises a little bit, and perhaps we haven't seen that enough in recent times. I think that is kind of because of Richie Wellens and because of his high standards of everything to do with his football club.
Well, Richie Wellens was the special guest on this week's Orient Live, the warm-up, so make sure you head over to Spotify or Apple Podcast to listen back to that one. Make sure you subscribe and give us a like as well. And of course we caught up with him to hear his thoughts ahead of this match, so let's hear him now.
Into the weekend is Tranmere. You haven't had the best start perhaps, but they're always a very competitive team at this level.
Yeah, whenever Tranmere drop down to League 2, you always think playoffs minimum. They're a big club, a well-run club. With a really, really good manager who has won promotion from this league before, so they'll come with their own threats. Quite a hardened League 2 team. He'll come here and try and spoil and trying to, and be disciplined off the ball, and then obviously try and hit us on the counter attack. So we need to be aware of that. But they're quite an efficient team in the games that I've watched. So and I watched them at Newcastle, actually at the game. So they stayed in that game for long periods. I think they're a decent team, so yeah, they'll be a dangerous opponent.
In terms of your squad selection for Saturday, we saw 11 changes midweek. I imagine it'll be reverting to that side from last Saturday against Hartlepool.
Yeah, we'll probably make 11 changes again. We've got a couple of injuries, to be honest. And we've looked a little bit at. We're not sure if they're going to play a diamond. They've played 3 at the back, or they're going to play 4-4-2. So we've just changed our system a little bit. We have got a couple of injuries, so wait and find out who's in the team. But we have got a couple of injuries.
And do you think your side kind of has that flexibility now that you can kind of react to whatever other sides throw at you?
Well, I think we've got players that can have versatility. So you look at Ruelken plays a 10. Ruelken plays a centre forward. He can play left or right. Paul Smyth can do exactly the same. George Moncur can play off the side, or he can play as a 10. Hunt can play right back, left back. So we've got a load of versatility in our team. So I think when you work on little systems in training, then obviously it gives you a lot of flexibility, and then we go with what works.
Top of the league so far, most goals scored and joint fewest goals conceded. Things going very well for the start of the season, but going into this kind of fresh new month, what are the kind of aims and ways to keep your side grounded?
Keep our standards high, keep our foundations what we've set. All our foundations are built from hard work. Our reactions are good, our intensity to work, our work rate has been excellent. So we've looked at all these stats against other teams, especially the top 6, and we're right up there in every stat. So we come away from it a little bit on Tuesday, especially the set plays. But hopefully we'll be back on it on Saturday, and that's what stood us in good stead. We've got natural talent in the changing room. We've got speed, we've got ability, and we've got goal scorers. As long as we will allow them a foundation to work from, which the likes of Viggs, Beck, Dan Hatt, TJ, Tomo, Rob Hunters give us, as long as we've got them foundations to work from, then we'll always be a threat.
Top stuff there from Richie, and of course don't forget, if you're watching along live on our YouTube preview, international fans, you can head over and pick up your streaming pass to watch along here on Orient Live, or UK fans, you can get an audio pass to listen with Dave Victor and Matt Hiscock. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube and you're nearby, get yourself down to the stadium, come and get behind the boys as well. But now let's take a look at the travelling team for this afternoon's fixture in Tranmere Rovers, and Mickey Mellon has named his side with number 1 Ross Doohan in goal, number 2 Josh Dakers-Cogley, number 3 Ethan Bristow, number 4 Lee O'Connor, number 8 Reece McAleer, number 10 and the captain Kane Hemmings, number 11 Josh Hawkes, number 14 Jordan Turnbull, number 16 John Nolan, number 19 Neil Byrne, and number 20 Elliot Nevitt. And on the bench for Tranmere is Hewlett, Merry, Hockenhull, Hughes, Lewis, Simew and Burton. So there is the away side for this afternoon's fixture. And what are you expecting from Tranmere this afternoon? They haven't had the best start to the season, but I think any game in League 2 can be a tough one.
Yeah, I think Tranmere, like you say, haven't had the best start, but they're a side that will have a good budget for the level. They've got a manager who's experienced promotion from this level a couple of times, and they've reached the playoffs more often than not when they're in League 2, and I think it's only a matter of time before they improve, and they'll be there or thereabouts come the end of the season. So I think they're going to come here today. They'll probably, given their start and the way we've started, they might look to frustrate us. They might like to kind of sit behind the ball and try and tell us to kind of put the emphasis on us to break them down. But they do have players that can hurt us on the counter attack, so we've got to be wary of that.
And in an attacking sense for Orient, obviously we'll be looking at their defence and trying to get at them. Do you think it will be a tougher test defensively than the likes of Hartlepool and Colchester?
Oh, 100%. Like Brendan just said, I fully expect them to sit behind the ball, have 2 banks of 4 or maybe a 5 in there as well, and just say they'll be happy to walk away with it with a point today in the position they're in and where we are in the league. So they're going to just say, come on then, ask us questions. What are you going to do? You come and break us down. We've got to pull them apart. We've got to try and pull them out of areas, their defenders, into wider areas, and create spaces for our midfielders to run into, and create something, because they'll be very, very tough. And like Brendan says, they're very good on the counter attack. That's where our defence, last week we conceded goals, getting hit on the break, so that's where we need to concentrate as well. But it'll be tough, but we get a goal first 15-20 minutes, they've got to come at us. That'll play into our hands, it'll open the game up, and we'll get more opportunities to score goals.
Who are the danger men that we need to be wary of this afternoon?
So yeah, they've got 2 good strikers for the level, 2 good finishers for the level in Elliot Nevitt and Kane Hemmings, and I think we're going to highlight some of Kane Hemmings' clips here, and he's a player that for me is one of the best number 9s in the division. I think he's a big, powerful centre forward, but he's also very mobile. You see there scoring against us at the back end of last season, and I think it was a real coup for Tranmere to get him in from Burton in January, and for me, Tranmere always kind of have that top striker for the level. I think the last time they had was James Vaughan, who retired, and they have replaced him now with Kane Hemmings. He's just a very good finisher, very mobile, but then also physically strong and can get about the pitch well.
How confident are you though with Dan and Omar at the back? They're strong as well. It's a good matchup, but it's one you maybe expect the O's to come off the better in.
Yeah, if we're talking about kind of mobility and but also power and physicality, Omar Beckles fits that build, and there aren't many strikers that I think that Omar Beckles would struggle up against in this division. And then Dan Happy, the one area he can be got at sometimes is his pace, but I think he hasn't really shown that this season. He's really improved, and that partnership is really flourishing at the minute, and they'll be confident coming up against any striker at the moment.
They certainly will. Well, hopefully the O's can keep Kane Hemmings quiet this afternoon. And just a quick shout out to Angie Lunn, who says it's lovely to watch us and Leyton Orient warm up on the stream, and thank you for that, Angie. And of course, if you don't do so yet, make sure you go over and follow at LOFC Live to keep up to date with everything going on here. But now let's remind ourselves of the Orient lineup for this afternoon's game, as Richie and his side look to continue the unbeaten start to the season. So in goal, of course, for the O's, number 22 Lawrence Vigouroux. It's an unchanged back 4 with number 2 Tom James in at right back. Number 5 Dan Happy is at centre back alongside Omar Beckles. Number 7, Paul Smyth, and number 10, Ruel Sotiriou are out in the wide spots with the midfield 3 of number 14, George Moncur, Idris El Mazouni and Darren Pratley, the captain. And leading the line once again is number 23, Charlie Kelman, and in at left back, number 32, Rob Hunt. And a strong bench for the O's this afternoon with Sam Sargent, Adam Thompson, Craig Clay, Jordan Brown, Jaden Wareham, Aaron Drynan and Stephen Duke-McKenna on the bench for the O's this afternoon. So there is the lineup. Talking about the consistency again, it is the midfield 3 and the defence and the goalkeeper obviously is all consistent. Ruel's the only force change really. How key is that, do you think, to what we're seeing from the O's at the moment?
Well, you've got to be consistent if you want to win games of football, and like I say, consistency is key. We've won 5, we've drawn 1. I think the biggest thing, and Richie said it previous weeks, is the work rate. You need to work hard. When you've got the ball, you need to work hard to pull the opposition apart. When you don't have the ball, you have to work hard to win the ball back, you know. So that's what he's looking at, is like their attitude, energy levels on the pitch. That is key, and that's what needs to be consistent. Once that drops off, then we'll cause ourselves problems. That's what needs to be more consistent than our actual play when we've got the ball.
When you find yourself top of the league, I know it's early doors, but when you find yourself there and winning games every week, how hard is it to keep those levels high and to make sure things don't drop and make sure no complacency sneaks in?
Oh, it's easy. It's easy. Footballers, anyone doing any sport, professional sport, you love winning. You want to win all the time. When you're up there, you've got a bit of buzz about you. You walk in the training ground on a Monday morning, everyone's slapping everyone on the back, and it's such a feel-good factor, you know. Wherever you go, the supporters are loving you. No one's moaning as much on social media about your performance or anything like that. It's such a great thing. It gives you a lift and you want to continue winning.
Who do you expect to shine for the O's today? Obviously, Ruel Sotiriou comes in. There'll be a lot of eyes on him, but who do you expect to shine?
Yeah, like you say, it's a big day for Ruel Sotiriou. I think he's one of them that once he gets on a run, he's such a good player, but he does take him a little bit of time to get into it. We saw against Hartlepool last weekend, he got on the score sheet. That's what he brings, just a very, very good finisher. And if he can kind of get up to speed and show the levels that we saw at the back end of last season, then Theo Archibald should be worried for his place, because there's no set kind of starting 11 here. I think there's very much kind of, you've got to fear that players can come in and take your place if you come out of the side. And
the players are getting ready in the dugout. Glenn, kickoff's nearly here. We said it's early doors. We are top of the league. We're back-to-back home games. It's a good opportunity to really try and cement and pull away at the top maybe. I know it's not only just turned September.
100%. I'm looking, I think the performance, if the performance right and better over a longer period of time, because there's been patches of sort of 15 minutes and we drop off for 5-10 minutes, which is understandable because energy levels drop and you need to have a breather. If we can get that closer to that perfect performance, get the early goals, I think Ruel could score a couple today, if not a hat-trick. I might have a look at that in a minute. There's kiss of death, sorry. But I really do. I just think everyone's smiling, everyone's anticipating a great game, you know, today, and I hope the viewers are at home too, and I think we're in for one.
And talking of a kiss of death, I was going to come to you for your prediction. We haven't done it for a while. Sorry to put you on the spot here. What way do you believe this one will go in your heart?
As I'm always wrong, I'm going to say Tranmere win or a draw.
Oh no, it can't be having that.
Well, I'm always wrong. It's a home win. Of course it's a home win.
We'll reverse jinx that one. But on the flip side, you feel pretty confident, don't you, Brendan?
Yeah, the first goal's going to be key today, because like we say, I think Tranmere are going to sit back and defend. So if we can get an early goal, then we can get more and hopefully get the win.
Well, T1, the taxi is about to ring around the stadium any second. Now here it is. So it is, of course, time once more to hand over to the match commentary team of Dave Victor and Matt Hiscock.
And welcome to the home of the league leaders. Leyton Orient this afternoon facing a Tranmere Rovers side who haven't had a great record on the road. In fact, they've only won twice in the league in 2022, but they have taken 6 points from their last 2 visits in E10. And Matt Hiscock, it's going to be a test.
Yeah, I think whenever the O's face Tranmere Rovers, you always feel it's going to be a test. Of course, met them, as you mentioned, a couple of times last season. One of them was an emphatic win for the O's in the Cup. The latter was a disappointing afternoon, the final game of the season here. But Mickey Mellon is a manager that always gets a side which you feel will be competitive. They'll always be there or thereabouts, competing, looking for the top 7 finish. So it'll be an interesting game today.
I was talking from a colleague from BBC Radio Merseyside. He felt that Tranmere, a side in transition, they're settling. It was a